Hello, folks. How you doing? Here we are from StreetSmart Marketing again. I'm here with Nate Streeter, the owner, and I'm Steve Lundgren. What we're talking about today is how much should I spend on marketing? That's our topic. At the top of the list here, we've got a question. What is your business profile? So that's the place we start with this. The first point there is about your location, your visibility if you're retail. Tell us about that, Nate.
Obviously every week so we do so many grand openings, and whether they're franchises or independent companies, often they don't really have a clue on how much they should be spending on marketing. And I know I frustrate some people because when they ask me that question, I'm sort of asking them lots of questions. Right. And I wanted to we're going to do a series of presentations here that are going to go over this, but it's more complicated than just, you should be spending X. Yes, I would say if you nail me down, I would say most companies that I work with, if they're selling business to consumer, they're spending between 5 and 20%. Are there outliers? Yes. I have some customers that spend more than 20% of their gross revenue on marketing. I know that all of you just dropped off your chair, but there are a few industries where you have to spend that much, and they have very high margins in those industries. So marketing is a huge percentage of what they do. And then there's a few where they spend very little, only like a couple percent.
Right. So there's not just a single percentage answer for any business. It really depends on what your business is like or your business profile.
Right. And even within a franchise. So that's partly why we ask questions like this too, is because it's even more complicated than just, you're a hair cutting place? Oh, okay. Then it should be X percentage. I do think that there are some things that we could say about that, but location is this first one that you're talking about, and it's huge.
So why would that make a difference, the location, and what percentage, say, for instance, you should be spending on your marketing?
Well, because, let's, I've seen this before. If you are right next door to Target, and they have how many thousand people that come every single weekend,
right?
They're basically, you probably spend quite a bit on rent to have that location. Right. Well, in a sense, a percentage of your rent, really, you're spending on marketing. You're to get that great location, which is bringing you lots of business.
Right.
So, the truth of the matter is, and of course, we work with a whole bunch of people that are exactly the opposite. You're in that stinking strip mall around the corner that only 2 places are even left out of 10, and you can barely get anybody to come. Well, you're probably going to have to spend quite a bit more on marketing.
You mean if I've got my location back behind the bowling alley, I'm going to have to spend something on visibility? Or like people can't see me? What do you mean?
I don't know what kind of business you're running, Steve. But
Hypothetically.
But yes, I guess the quick answer to your question is yes. I don't market for companies that do illegal transactions. But,
no, I wasn't going there.
Oh, okay. But so that's a big part of it. Is just where are you at and how does that factor in? So that's certainly one of the first questions we want to see. And let's just be realistic about that. If you got a crappy location, put it out there on the table. You're going to have to spend more on marketing. End of story. Don't fight me. I'm not. Look, I don't care if you spend more with me. Spend more wherever. I'm not necessarily trying to convince you to do something with us, but just be realistic about your scenario.
So basically, if you're not on a major intersection somewhere where a lot of people are seeing you on the way by, you're going to need to put some marketing in front of them so that they see you. Exactly.
Become a destination, not a convenience type factor.
Yeah, there you go.
So the second thing is momentum. If you're a grand opening, unless you have which is, kind of going into C a little bit, right? You might have a recognizable brand, but, I'm always frustrated because if no one's ever heard of you,
right,
you don't have momentum.
Yeah. Yep.
It takes a lot of energy, and we're going to probably do a little thing, but to get that rock moving up the hill, we like to use that analogy.
Right.
If you're pushing a rock up a hill, when does it require the most energy to even get the rock moving in the first place?
Right.
And that's really true with marketing. There's different things I could say about that. And we'll go into some things a little more detail with that. But how much momentum do you have? Are you in year 3? Are you brand new? Does anybody know who the heck you are? What kind of momentum do you bring? Are you, right. I think we've done some work with e-cigs. And you should have, when I told Leah that we were doing work with e-cigs, man, I never got such a strange look on her face. But I told her, but honey, people are actually quitting smoking because they're doing this. And she's like, oh, okay. But anyway,
Makes it sound better.
they have momentum in a different way. The only reason I'm bringing that up is it's something that's very popular right now.
Right.
And so when we put out a flyer or when we do marketing online for an e-cig company, they have a very different thing happening than a product, where no one knows what the heck it is.
Right.
So, you have to kind of think where you're at in that momentum, in a variety of different ways.
So how do they determine that? One is the age of the business. Another is sort of the popularity of the product. Are there any other issues that sort of contribute to that momentum?
I think there are. Like, you can think of our flyer delivery business. I think, certainly 10 years ago, we didn't have to design as fancy of flyers for them to work well, right? Because it was easier, in a sense, to get business 10 years ago. And I think for many of you guys who've done advertising, you probably are shaking your heads right now. So some of it about momentum is about timing, too. The housing market, we're in 2013 here, almost into 14.
Yeah.
The housing market's improving, so momentum's starting to rebound. So
Right.
you're right. Some of it has to do with timing. Some of it has to do with how long you've been in business. Some of it has to do with how popular a product is. But again, let's be realistic about it. And yeah, if you're, I'm going to guess for 2013, spending $1 on marketing if you're a realtor is going to go a lot further than it did in 2010. Why?
Yeah.
Because of the momentum. There's a lot of momentum in the industry.
Right. So what about brands and products, the recognizable brands and products? How does that fit in this? How much you're spending on marketing?
Huge. I mean, when we do ad reviews, you guys have probably seen some of our ad reviews. This factors in huge, because if someone sees a brand that they know and trust,
Yeah.
man, I've had franchises give me stuff that's so crappy, and we look at it and say, oh my goodness, this is never going to work. And we run the ad, and sure enough, it worked. Well, why? Because it had that logo across the bottom of it. Or it was that commercial that everybody had seen, and they know what the heck the product is. So, yeah, I'd say that the recognizable brand product makes a huge difference. Let me put it another way. We often talk about the 3-second or 5-second rule when we're
Evaluating flyers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when we're evaluating, whether it's websites or Facebook ads or like you said, flyers, any kind of media. Well, same thing. Think about that in terms of this. If you have a recognizable brand or product, people identify it much quicker. And so you have a much better chance within 3 seconds for them to say, oh, I know what this is, and, keep it or throw it away.
Right.
Whereas if you have to spend the first couple seconds for them just to figure out what the heck you do, or God forsake, I mean, I see some of the stuff you guys put out, you can't figure out what you do in 5 seconds.
Yeah, what is this?
It is going in the garbage.
Yeah.
Or they're clicking to the next website.
Yeah.
So, that's partly where this factors into.
Well, let's look at the other side of that coin. Let's say, what if you're in a position where you've got a company and you just don't have like a national brand? Maybe you're a self-standing company. Then, what sort of effect would that business profile have on your spending for marketing?
I think it can be really deceptive, because you can be the master of your own little universe. I think I remember, so many times where I've had franchises move into the Twin Cities. No one knows anything about them.
Right.
No one's ever heard about them. No one knows anything about them. Okay? And because they understand marketing and they understand what they have to do with it, we can literally make it within a year and a half, where people in those communities are saying, oh yeah. And I remember even so many times where people said, well, you guys have been here for years. Well, it feels like years if you really do a good job of marketing.
Yeah.
You can position yourself as if you're a recognizable brand.
Right.
And so I think, you don't... Now, to do that in a whole market like the Twin Cities, is it expensive? Does it take a lot of energy? Do you have to put a lot of effort into the strategy? Yes, but it's possible. You don't necessarily have to have 10 years.
So it's something that can be overcome. If you don't have a recognizable brand, it's not the end of the world.
Right. But you might have to spend some more, and
Right.
I think, just being realistic about that.
So it's just like the location visibility issue. If you're having visibility issues, then you're going to have to spend some money on that to get visibility. With the brand issue, if you're not recognizable, then you're going to have to do some work to get that recognition.
Exactly. I think most of the franchises we work with, they spend 5 to 15%, to their franchise. They're giving money off the top.
Yep.
Well, in some ways, that's marketing money, because they're buying that brand and that system, right? So if you don't have that brand and system, I'm not saying you have to spend exactly the same amount as what they are, for the franchise, but you should probably be spending more than they are on marketing.
Yeah.
Because in a sense, they've worked very hard to get that recognizable brand.
Right.
So,
and that's sort of a pitfall, isn't it? I think people get into those things and think that, well, it's going to be taken care of by the franchise, but really they need to be paying attention to it too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, what about USP? How does that fit in this?
Oh, it's huge. Because, and you don't have to have one. I want to be clear. I think, hopefully if you guys have read any marketing material in the last 10 years, I feel like authors and smart marketing people are getting this, which is you don't have to have a unique selling proposition to be successful. I mean, you know this, Steve. Lots of companies that we work with here at StreetSmart, I mean, I don't, and they probably punch me in the nose if I said this to their face, but
no names.
Yeah, they don't have a unique selling proposition. Like they pretty much do what everybody else does. Now, do they do it a little better? Maybe. Do they run a better business? Do they do better marketing? Yes. In fact, that's where this fits in, is that sometimes your unique selling proposition or positioning can just be that you're better at marketing. You're better at communicating how you benefit people.
Yeah, and it's almost like it's not as if they don't have a USP. It's just maybe they're not communicating it or haven't really firmed it up what it is.
Right.
Because in a sense, everybody has it. And if companies are struggling to figure out what their USP is about, I mean, that's something we could help them with, right?
Well, it's just, remember that beer company that you and I talked about a couple weeks ago? What was the beer company in the 60s or 70s where they started?
Oh, Shells?
Yeah, and didn't they like clean their glass things? And weren't they advertising that they clean them? And everybody's like, and because of that, they had the freshest beer, and that's the way they were marketing it. Well, everybody over at, Anheuser-Busch and Coors and all these other places were scratching their heads like, we've been doing this for decades.
Right.
But perception is reality. And everybody thought, oh, this company's actually washing their things, and their beer is, fresher because of it.
Oh, and it was just the whole perception. It was the guy that did the radio ads, right? Because I remember him saying that, those big breweries, they spill more beer than we sell in a year. Kind of idea that that it's just such more just the scarceness and the small quantity and the attention to detail and the kind of the respect.
Right.
Any big company that's so big that they're spilling more beer than you're selling, it just puts it in such a different light.
And I think you're hitting on it perfectly. It's about positioning you within and understanding how you fit. It doesn't mean your beer has to taste better or that it's really any different at all. It's about the story you tell, the positioning you have, the way that you're doing it. And I could care less if you have a product that's really unique. You can be successful with nothing unique about your product. Yeah. We'll find something that's important to tell people. Because that's really what marketing is. It should be. Mm-hmm. Why, do you have something to say? It doesn't have to even be about your product, like you said. It could be about the way you do it. It could be about yourself. There's a million different ways to be thinking about that. So, not everything is an infomercial where it's all focused on the product itself.
Yeah.
In fact, very little is, right?
Yep.
So, and the truth is, very few people make decisions on what they're going to buy based solely on the product. Otherwise, everybody would buy the car that's Consumer Reports' most reliable and cheapest per gallon car every year. But they don't, right?
There's more to that.
There's a million things more to it.
There's a lot of other levels you can connect on.
Right. So that's where this fits into is, kind of figuring out what, and again, these all kind of fit into what are your business profile? You say, well, how much should I be spending on marketing, Nate? And I realize there's lots of things we're going over here, and this is only one of the things we're talking about with how much.
We're just not going to answer this question, are we?
It is. It's complicated. It is complicated. But if you want to act like a bigger business, a multi-million or tens of millions of dollar business, this is how they're thinking.
Right.
And they're thinking very strategically about all these different things, and they understand these things as far as with regard to how much they're spending on marketing.
So the bottom line is that all four of these aspects will help you come to a decision about how much to spend.
Yeah, and I think the biggest failure I see with small businesses is they don't take these things into account enough when they're thinking about this. And again, it's not necessarily that we're trying to convince you to spend more. In some cases, it might be less. you know.
Right.
So
Or redistribute something. You're spending too
right.
much on this. It's like you've got great visibility here. Why are you putting all this money into visibility when really you should be concentrating, on your brand or something?
Right. Or you have a really recognizable brand. Why do you put crap out that doesn't really honor that?
Yeah.
Or you have this amazing momentum. Why aren't you taking advantage of that? Or you have this amazing way that you could be positioning yourself. I won't name a specific company, but it's a big one in the Twin Cities that I feel like this is the case with them. They aren't taking advantage of the very awesome positioning they could. Mm-hmm. And, that can be frustrating.
Right.
So, I think if you can have these conversations right from the get-go, this is how you set up effective marketing and effective high return on investment, where when you ask the question, how much should I be spending on marketing? The real answer is, well, as you should always spend where you can get the return on investment. But these are the things you should be considering to make that high return on investment.
Right. There you go.
So,
okay, we better wrap this up then.
yeah.
And we'll continue on this general topic, but for now, here's how you can help us. If you enjoyed this presentation, then please leave us a review or comment on a Twitter mention. Share this video with someone else that you think could use it. Maybe, or you could suggest a video topic for us if there's something that you'd like to hear us talk about.
Yes.
Within reason. If you're ready to take action, say if you need to find out what your USP is, or you want to somebody to help you figure out, what should I really be spending on marketing? Give us a call or an email, Twitter. Any of those would be good. Do we have some other offers or things we should tell them about, or?
I think if this is something that you need help with, you're asking the question, how much should I be spending on marketing? You need to be thinking about all these things. We'd love to sit down with you. I think we've said before, we have packages that start at $599 for 4 sessions. So you can really kind of make a big dent in that. You don't have to commit to the monthly big, $3,000 to $10,000 packages that a lot of our clients are buying. But if you just want to kind of figure out what we could help you with, that's a great way to kind of get started.
So just to solve a specific problem.
To solve a specific problem, and to really, this would be one. You could really help yourself understand how to really figure out how much you should be spending on marketing.
There we go. Okay, well, until next time, stay
Yeah.
well.
Yep.